Name the pain. Name your pain. When dealing with lifelong developed habits, good or bad, you have to be able to recognize what it is that caused or what is the foundation of your life choices. It's like developing a rash on the skin. The rash is not the problem. It's merely a symptom indicating that there is a physical malady in the body. There are some obvious symptoms that are slowly recognized when dealing with self-sabotage. The blame game. Blaming others when things go wrong. You blame others, it makes you feel better, but you sabotage your chance to learn and grow from these experiences. And should I say that you will repeat this experience again and again. When the student is ready, the teacher will come. The teacher teaches the lesson, don't touch or play with the fire, to the student. The student learns from the fire the lesson of pain to reinforce the teacher's lesson. Avoidance. Choosing to walk away when things don't go smoothly or your way. If you take a look back at your life and you notice a series of circumstances where you have suddenly left jobs, relationships, responsibilities, this could be a symptom of self-sabotage. Now, you may have what you consider a valid reason or excuse, but on introspection of this behavior, a pervasive pattern is very apparent. It's tough, but working through challenges and relational problems help you grow. But you will never learn this lesson if you are constantly practicing escapism. That's running away or not confronting a situation when things get tough. Procrastination. Putting off for tomorrow things that can be done today. Procrastination is being stuck or paralyzed by the thought or feeling of being overwhelmed, or bad time management, or doubting your ability and skills for a task. Procrastination is simply subtle avoidance. When we lack the motivation and inspiration to do something, we will find any excuse to put it off. When you procrastinate, you turn your energy from an important task to something else that needs doing but isn't as urgent. It still needs to be done though, so it justifies your avoidance of more important tasks. Serial procrastination typically has one of the following underlying causes: poor time management, lack of confidence and ability, feeling overwhelmed by what needs to be done, depression, stress, or anxiety, or lack of inspiration. Now, these are the different types of procrastinators. Performance-enhanced procrastinators. These are the people who say, I work well under pressure. Everything is left to be done in the 11th hour. Their challenge is just getting started. These people struggle with perfection. The standard that they set for themselves is unachievable, so pushing everything back to the last minute gives them cause to blame others for the lack of promptness, or relying on the old behavior pattern of the last minute save in every important decision or project. These individuals live on the edge of drama and disaster. Every task and every relationship is marked by this person's inability to do anything on time. They're always late. Every assignment is done at the last moment. In relationships, the most important people are constantly being put on the back burner. The environment they create is always charged with self-interest and self-importance. The self-distractor. The statement, I'm being pulled in so many directions that I have no energy. These people tend to blame inaction on being so busy that they have no time to rest. These people tend to be very hard on themselves. They need to recharge, meditate, or walk in nature. These things will help recharge their batteries. Sometimes this type of procrastination is confused with depression. There are specific tasks that need to be done, There's a desire in the brain and the heart to do the task or participate in a social event, but at the same time, the body and the emotions are moving in a totally opposite direction to withdraw and self-isolate. It's like having all the materials, permits, land, and the desire to build a house, not having the energy to lift the first hammer. Now they have the guilt, disappointment, and shame to accompany their inability to complete the task, which serves to make them more lackadaisical concerning the task or relationship. Too many irons in the fire. These people are what you called busy Baxons in the Tower of Poe by Benjamin Huff when describing the character named Rabbit. Before completing one task, Rabbit adds 3 more tasks to the mist. His mantra, I'm busy, be back soon. When busyness comes up as an excuse for not doing something, it's usually an indication of avoidance. Rather than facing a challenge head on or admitting that they don't want to do something, it's easier to place the blame on having other important things to do. These people create chaos to avoid facing what they need to face and what needs to be dealt with. These people can't seem to refrain from stacking things up too high and suffering from the results of stress or being overwhelmed or a sense of falling behind. In these modern times, we have unbelievable benefits and we shouldn't take them for granted. Now, I'm not asking for the days of horse and buggies, but it is amazing to me why it's so chronically difficult for us not to overfill our plates with obligations, diversions, work projects, given all the technology that we have over our ancestors. Part of the problem is that abundance isn't what we think it is. It is just on the good side of enough. Abundance is a narrow window between scarcity and overabundance, and it's easy to overshoot, especially in a society that worships wealth, productivity, and economic growth. These pressures can cause or bring on triggers that cause a person to overcompensate into this drowning sea of panic, self-doubt, and paralyzation. The starter junkie. This procrastinator has a terminal case of shiny object syndrome. They constantly are coming up with new projects to take on and then getting bored with them a week later. They're intrigued by the latest trends and will be quick to implement them, but not to follow through on it. They are great at making decisions and taking action. However, they end up inadvertently losing a lot of time and burning out because they don't take consistent actions in one direction long enough to see the results. These are people who constantly drop the ball. It's like a shot of adrenaline, a drug-like thrill of coming up with an idea or learning about something new, doing some research, plotting the course, then starting the idea. In the world of new opportunities, there is no shortage of things you can start all the time. It feels good to scratch that starting itch. The problem, of course, is the shelf life of the new start thrills. They're very short, really short. And then you find yourself in a world of mundane, tedious, and the actual work. And depending on your tolerance level, you will stay for a while or you will bounce super fast. Passive aggressive. Passive aggressive, this is the act of you pretending that you're not mad when down on the inside you're a raging storm. You can quietly undermine yourself or your relationship with unspoken pain, anger, disappointment. Rather than talk about your pain, you internalize. Hurts that are buried simply fester and they manifest in a destructive behavior. Bottling up emotions can cause anger management issues and affect relationships. Passive-aggressive people tend to express their negative feelings harmfully, but indirectly. Instead of dealing with issues, they behave in ways that veil their hostility and mask their discontent. If you are not encouraged to be open and honest about your feelings from an early age, you might use passive-aggressive behavior as an alternative to addressing issues head-on. For example, you may sulk, withdraw from people emotionally, or find indirect ways to communicate how you feel. You may act like this because you fear losing control and are insecure, or you may lack self-esteem. You might do it to cope with stress, anxiety, depression, or insecurity, or to deal with rejection or conflict. On the other hand, you might do it because you have a grudge against a colleague or feel underappreciated. Passive-aggressive people may mask their real feelings and claim that things are fine. Nevertheless, you often spot them with their actions which subtly contradict their words. Some passive-aggressive people have a permanent negative attitude and regularly complain about the workplace or their colleague. Instead of offering praise when it's due, they typically downplay or ignore others' achievements. They may also use sarcasm as a weapon to attack colleagues, pretending that they are joking, or they may spread harmful rumors. You may find that you are irritable and easily angered. Then you pick fights with your partner over silly things like him or her leaving the cap off the toothpaste or leaving a mess in the living room. You may find that you're easily offended and you can't take a joke, or that you are overly sarcastic. Because of your internal unhappiness, you may consistently pick holes in others. In doing so, you harm your happiness and risk your losing the relationship you have with friends and family. Of course, the only way out of this cycle of self-sabotage is to communicate, to open up to those you love and care about, and tell them how you're feeling. Offense. You're always on 100 ready to argue, even over things that don't matter or don't have anything to do with you. You orchestrate situations to provoke disagreement on purpose. You are easily offended. People don't have to say anything to you. All they have to do is look at you in a certain way. I think all of us have had the experience at Walmart or any other place where people have to wait in line. A situation begins with a customer and the cashier, and before long another customer who has nothing to do with the situation steps in and causes pure chaos. Behavior of being easily offended is further sanctioned and accepted by reality shows, political rallies, and social media platforms. Being out of control has become an acceptable form of expression and signifies the need for introspection for hurting people. We at times will set a higher standard for ourselves than we set for other people. When the goal is not met, it triggers our negative self-talk. For example, I can't do anything right. I knew I wasn't going to meet that goal. Your inner saboteur is there to reinforce that negative narrative, and you believe it to be your truth. So you lose the battle before you even start to fight. Remember, we live most of our lives in our hearts and in our heads. It's not just when you are awake, but also when your body is resting and recovering. The mind never sleeps. When your social emotions of shame or fear is triggered by the inner or external situation, you might go, oh, all right, let's stop right here. We all at times can set higher standards for ourselves than we set for other people. When that goal is not met, it triggers your negative self-talk. For example, I can't do anything right. I knew I wasn't going to get that goal, or I wasn't going to be able to meet the goal. Your inner saboteur is there to reinforce that negative narrative, and you believe it to be your truth. So you lose the battle before you even start to fight. Remember, we live most of our lives in our hearts and in our heads. It's not just when you are awake, but also when the body is resting and recovering. The mind never sleeps. When your social emotion of shame or fear is triggered by an inner or external situation, your mind goes into a self-protection or a self-punishment mode. In either mode, your mind is activated to find some resolution to the dilemma. You will even find yourself laying awake in your bed contemplating or punishing yourself with negative self-talk. Even as you arise in the morning, the first thoughts are how to find resolution that will satisfy your destructive behavior.